You ready? All right, great.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Big thanks to Evan and Nifty. Round of applause for them. Organizing computer code's a lot harder than organizing people, I think, as most of us have found. So my talk today is on-chain price. The way you pronounce that is interferometry. And that looks like a word that I made up. It's actually ChatGPT one day. I was talking to it about my project. My project is called UTX Oracle. And ChatGPT said, you know, your project is kind of more like an interferometer. And I was like, what'd you call me? Turns out interferometer is kind of like like the human ear kind of detects the signal it wants to detect in a field of noisy data. Or you can imagine like radio waves going everywhere, but your antenna just kind of hones in on the signal it wants to hone in on. So that's the general word for interferometry. I just kind of threw it out there. I'm going to kind of see if it sticks. But yeah, my main project is UTX Oracle, which is a open source project that tries to detect the Bitcoin price directly on chain. How many of you guys run a Bitcoin node? Or like, yeah, so most everybody. Great. Okay. So everybody knows like your Bitcoin node is just processing transactions. 1 Bitcoin sent from this address to this address. That's all it does all day. So the price is not natively on the Bitcoin node, but I figured out a way through interferometry to figure out what the price is by just doing some kind of statistics on these transactions. So that's what I'll talk today. I'll do it in 3 main parts. Going to show you a new live stream animation of this happening like live right now. I'm going to explain how all the algorithms work and show you the results. But first, I'm going to start out with something a little bit simpler. This is just a simple chart here. I think it's kind of a recognizable chart. Y-axis is logarithmic, going up by a factor of 10 and then another factor of 10. X-axis is the date. Starts around 2015, see some spikes, 2017, 2021, reach an all-time high in 2025. And since this is a pretty familiar chart to most of us, I'll go ahead and put a title on it. This chart is the average Bitcoin amount sent on chain going inverse. It used to be people would send a whole Bitcoin on chain. No one sends that anymore. Then it was 0.01 was a common amount. Now 0.01 is a common amount, even though that's not like the median. The median is more like 0.001, which is $100. Because they're still huge transactions, the average amount is like 0.01. But look how good this is. People, when they hear about my project, they think I'm doing some kind of advanced algorithm, black magic statistics, and they're right. I am doing all of those things. But 85% of getting the price from Bitcoin transactions is just looking from the average transaction amount. It's really that simple for a rough estimate of the price. And you can think about it kind of like, how do we measure grocery store checkouts to determine inflation? How do you determine inflation? Look at average grocery store checkouts. You just see the price of grocery store checkouts going up. That tells you that the value of the money is going down. In Bitcoin, it's the opposite. In Bitcoin, we see the value of average checkouts or average transactions going down. So that tells you that the value of the money is going up. So it's really simple at that level, but it's about to get way more complicated. Just so anyone that wants to do this themselves, detail here, this is a 60-day average. Obviously, you can't do this on every block. It's going to be noisy all over the place. But you can do this in 3 very simple commands to your Bitcoin node. block equals get block hash, RPC requests. Use your favorite RPC connector to your Bitcoin node. Once you get the block, stats equals get block stats, which I embarrassingly found only like 6 months ago. I've been doing all these statistics on outputs like by hand and Python, and then I found out get block stats and core just gives it to you. And then average is just, once you have the stats, there's a JSON property called total outs, or total out. Total out is the total amount of Bitcoin transferred to that entire block. So 4,000 transactions, total amount of Bitcoin transferred. This is the number of outputs. So basically the number of transactions or the number of outputs. Average is just that. So anybody can run that on their node, and they will not get a similar plot. They will get a plot that's identical to 8 decimal places. So this is a very, very robust, decentralized, consensus way of getting a very good rough estimate of the purchasing power of Bitcoin, which I think is like really powerful, and like kind of the motivation behind my project is like, I want people to be able to find the price, the same price, agreed upon the price, decentralized, open source way, no third parties. So I think that's really cool. So now I'm going to move on to the live stream so you can see this live in action. Yeah, I'm going to go over to my laptop real quick, if it'll reach. If you want to follow along, go to utxo.pro on your laptop. The visualization will probably look better there. All right, utxo.pro. While this thing is loading, you can also go to this website to get any more details about the project. I've got an explanation, historical price accuracy, open source code there. This thing I just launched last night, so if there's some bugs in here, I'm sorry. Hopefully it'll keep running. All right. I know this is kind of a monster. There's a lot going on here. And hopefully, can you guys see that gray font with the numbers coming in on the right? Okay, all right, cool. So simple explanation of this. This is the entire Bitcoin blockchain in one animated image. So like a terabyte of compressed data, all showing every single transaction that's ever happened on Bitcoin and the live transactions hitting the mempool, live as they come. The basic idea here is obviously I'm showing you the hotspots of Bitcoin transactions. This is where the highest transaction density occurs, around the 0.01. Back here, transaction density occurred at much higher Bitcoin amounts. So this is a y-axis of just the Bitcoin amounts on chain. So if you were looking at your node and it was just showing you this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount, this time, that's all this is. So the y-axis is upside down, 0 sats at the top, so these are like your op returns, inscriptions and stuff like that. 100,000 Bitcoin at the bottom. Is that enough? Has anyone sent more than 100,000 Bitcoin in a single transaction? Does anybody know? Yes, the highest amount of Bitcoin was 500,000 Bitcoin in a single transaction back here in 2011. Not a lot of people send that, but it's surprising how often huge transactions go through. 421 million just now. 9 million just now. Yesterday I was watching it, there was 3 $2 billion transactions went through on chain. Yeah, I mean, one of the things when you make cool stuff is like you didn't even realize while you made it, and now I'm like, did I make this just so I can watch the biggest transaction go through all the time? Like, so over the years from 2009 to 2025, you can see how like the hot spots of what amounts people like to send started to creep what I call up, meaning lower Bitcoin amounts, because Bitcoin is worth more now. It's like a game of golf here, you know, and when everybody's sending very small amounts of Bitcoin all the time, that means we won. You know, that means Bitcoin's worth a lot. And then so now I'll get into the actual price. Is this live, by the way, 10:47? Is that a good time? Yeah, about right? Sweet, okay. Still working, thank you, YouTube. So not only do we see just the average amount growing here, and I've expanded this region around 0.01 because that's where the most transactions happen. That's where the most interesting stuff happens. The time axis is also nonlinear. So it's compressed time back here. So Satoshi's coins, 50 sat outputs would be like right there. And then I've expanded it here. So month, week, day, blocks. Anybody spent time trying to figure out that log price chart thing? So this is a log time, but this is the opposite way that he does it. So time is getting expanded as you get closer here. Other than the hotspots, you can see that there's obviously these jagged lines that are all kind of parallel to each other. And I first noticed this in 2015. I didn't really start out trying to find the price online at all. I'm sort of like a blockchain artist. I did a lot of like high-res data visualization in the past, and I love rendering beautiful data online. So I just started rendering this chart like 10 years ago, and I just noticed these things. And I was like, what are these? And I was like, oh my God, these are people spending round amounts of Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin at right now? About $100,000? 96,155? Right on, baby. Yeah, I just asked. I'm gonna get to that part later. So 0.001 times the price. That's how we know that this round amount is people spending $100. $100 is a different amount of Bitcoin every day, and it's a way different amount of Bitcoin over the years. But the $100 line is still what people spend. No matter what Bitcoin's at, people are spending $100 worth of Bitcoin. So that's why you can see this line so strong. This line goes all the way back to like 2014 is when you can first see it. And I think, like, this might be optimistic, but I think in the long run, it's going to be so obvious that the price is on chain that this is going to become the default price for like doing government stuff, settling contracts, stuff like that. It's just so obvious. Like, why would you get a price from a private database when you can get it open source on chain? As long as this trend continues. And it shouldn't continue, right? Because the dollar's going to die. But for as long as it does, it'll be on chain. So yeah, that's $100 right there. That's $50 right there. Goes all the way down to $10, you can see. Over here are live transactions hitting the mempool. This is pretty much the mempool. It's not exactly the mempool. I'm only interested in transactions that just showed up. So the mempool probably has transactions from like 2 months ago. I don't care about those. So this is not exactly the mempool. This is just the last 10 minutes of transactions that showed up into the mempool. And then these are individual blocks that happen. This is how frequently somebody sends a round US dollar payment online. It's multiple times per second. You can attack this if you want, but you're not going to stop the other people from sending that. That's just happening. Like, we have no idea who's sending that, but somebody's sending that all the time. And so in my next slide, I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail about the algorithm. But basically, you get the general price amount from looking at where these lines are, trying to figure out which is the $100 line. And then you can get the exact price amount by looking at these round numbers and just looking at how the median of these lines change like every minute. It's pretty amazing. So this is kind of in beta right now, but I've been really surprised at how accurate it's been compared to the exchanges. Hasn't broken yet. The long-term daily average UTX Oracle has been really good over like 5 years, but I've only been doing daily averages. I've only recently been doing really up-to-date times. So this is a time average of about 6 minutes. So if you do see a delay here, this might be like 6 minutes delayed from something you'd see on Coinbase or Binance or something like that. Because I need a little bit of statistics. I need like 300 samples or something in order for the median of the statistics of this line to converge. So yeah, now I'll get into a little further explanation of the algorithm. Any questions while I'm doing this? Yeah. I'm using what? Yeah. Yeah, on-chain data, yeah. Right, yeah. Yes, I mean the price, no one's trading here. We need exchanges because that's where people actually trade dollars for Bitcoin. And that sets the price.
Yeah, and then these are just people using what the price was set by the exchange to send each other value.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it could be the case that there's some people doing some OTC or just not on the exchange trading. So this might get some samples that no exchange ever sees. But generally, people are looking at their phone to figure out how much Bitcoin to send. They're using their phone's automatic converter to convert from dollars to Bitcoin. And that phone on the back end is doing some API to Coinbase or something. So this is probably just downstream from all the exchanges, but it's probably downstream from a wide collection of exchanges. So it's kind of got a built-in exchange average into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Have there been any periods in the past where based on maybe say like fee market spikes or like ordinals or anything where your algorithm has diverged from the price, or is there any?
Yeah, the big inscription onslaught was here. So like 2024, this thing crushed UTX Oracle and crushed my soul a little bit. So like from here to here, I was like on my couch being like, I'm not working on this project anymore. This is over. But then I got my energy back and I realized that I just don't need to use all transactions. There's transactions that you can tell are going to have price information associated with them, and then transactions that are just not. I'm not saying they're bad transactions. I just know if you've got a large witness data in your transaction, if you've got an op return, if you've got 1 million inputs, if you've got 1 million outputs. So I just do a lot of screening just because I'm pretty sure those transactions don't have good price information in them. So I'm showing you all of the points here, but only probably one out of probably only every other transaction actually makes it into my algorithm that I use. But yeah, it killed my soul for a little bit. Yeah.
Shouldn't the signal in the really small transactions fade as on-chain transactions of that scale become less and less economic, but the signal at the same time would strengthen at, like, say, the 1 million sat line? Because I'm looking at, 1 million sat actually looks like it's grown in signal strength.
Okay, 1 million sat is, do the math for me real quick.
0.01.
0.01?
Yeah, so see, like, I'm wondering if you agree that the idea being that these smaller transactions should move up layers in theory, and at the same time your price signal will kind of strengthen at other layers, like at 0.01 or 0.1.
I think, let me make sure I'm understanding your question. So transaction activity has moved to lower amounts of Bitcoin.
Well, I guess my point was just that on-chain, like, it's pretty inefficient to send 10,000 sats to an exchange to sell or buy.
Right.
Over time, that would be more the case, but the higher SAT
Okay.
amount UTXOs would sort of strengthen.
I
its
see what you're
signal.
saying. Yeah, so if you would have spoken to me in 2019, I would have been in total agreement with that. And I think eventually we might see that as true. But I would never have guessed that what has happened to Bitcoin since 2019 was that Bitcoin was going to go up to $100,000. On-chain fees would be cheaper in USD now than they were in 2018. And the amounts of Bitcoin that people send to each other would just continue go to zero. Like I used to be kind of like, yeah, dust limit is obviously necessary. We're on a trajectory now. You know, remember that this is kind of flattening out because of the expanded time here. We're on this trajectory now. Like we're headed towards the dust limit. We're headed towards where the dust limit is going to be $10. And so now I'm like, maybe we don't need the. Well, actually, honestly, I think the dust limit should be a function of that thing I showed you in the beginning, like simple average amounts over a long period of time. I mean, it's not consensus, but I think like a good mempool policy would be to set your dust limit to some 60-day moving average of spending amounts.
If a user decides to sell a specific amount of Bitcoin and sends it to an exchange, and makes an on-chain transaction to do so, that's informing your price data, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just P2P, it's also specific UTXOs going to exchanges for sales.
Definitely, yeah. And most, I mean, be honest with yourself, most people when they send to and from exchanges, they send round amounts of dollars. Shout out to Evan who made the conference price $151. Where's Evan? That was nifty? Yes. Did you do that just to mess with me?
No, maybe.
Yeah, no, that was funny. But I mean, come on. I mean, most people just $100, $10. Like you're not going to stop round numbers from humanity. It's just going to happen. Yeah.
So do you think that those low dollar amounts are just literally test transactions? So as more and more volume is happening, everyone wants to do a test transaction to say, hey, before I send a big amount, I'm going to send a $10 transaction, a $100 transaction. So I wonder if there's actually additional information in the larger transactions. I mean, this gives you the statistical ability to, because there's a high volume of that, because everyone's doing a test transaction.
Yeah.
I just was curious on your thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure if you were to be able to test transactions, you're right, they would all be down here. Also, these transactions typically contain inscriptions and Taproot or fancy kind of smart contract or something, whereas you're right. The bigger transactions, these are more people that are like just very serious about the amount of money going in here and they're not messing around. So yeah, these are probably higher signal to noise ratio for the purposes of what I'm doing. Yeah. Good question. Anybody else? I've just got, what's up?
Do you know what accounts for those vertical lines, like in the month and week range?
Vertical lines in the month and week. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is another artifact of the time being expanded. This line here is actually the same as like that line there. It just looks like it's bigger and more prominent because the time's expanded. But we see these all the time. What this is someone sent themselves a big amount of Bitcoin and then they just slowly spent it from it. It could maybe be like an algorithm that's spinning it all the time, but basically, let's say you have so this person had, it's always a round number too, okay? So this person had like 0.005 Bitcoin. They sent themselves to that, and then they just slowly took little pieces off of it. Yeah, they're like whiskers. Yeah, that happens a lot. Anybody else? Yeah.
So you mentioned, where you'd like to see this going is like that becomes the main reference of how people see the price of Bitcoin. So if people continue to use that more and more instead of the centralized exchanges, how do you see this evolving, since a lot of these transactions, you know, their wallet or whatever is checking that exchange price before they send that round amount?
Yeah, there's kind of like a feedback loop chicken and egg problem with this. If people were just using this price, then the price would never move. I think the free market will still take care of that, because there will still be people that just say no. You know, like, I'm not trading at that price, and then someone's going to have to offer more. Yeah, this is a third party, or not a third party, but this is kind of like a monitoring of exchanges. Yeah, I don't think it would work to incorporate this inside of an exchange as a price, because people would just say, no, I'm not trading at that. Yeah. Anybody else? I've got a couple more slides, but go ahead.
Hey, yeah, one more. First, love UTX Oracle.
Thanks,
and
man.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
The question is, are you aware of any commercial use cases yet?
I suck at business, and I find it hard to get my mind to work on like the business case for this. I'm starting to a little bit. Some people have asked me for an API. That'd probably be the easiest way, like paid API service. There's a higher frequency version of this that I'm thinking about making available for purchase maybe. And then just like settling contracts, if you want to have your contract settled based on something that's open source rather than trusting an exchange price. But yeah, let me know if you got an idea. Guys got an idea.
Bitcoin Audible is on a Bitcoin standard, so one of the things that we did, I've been working with my bookkeeper, and we've come up with a pricing model to actually set invoices to the set, because I get paid in sats, everybody wants to get paid in sats, and so when, you know, the invoice comes in and then the price moves a lot in 10 days because you got 15 days to pay the invoice, somebody's unhappy, you know, in that situation. And so I've been bugging Zaprite and they're interested in having set the invoice based on the SAT price for like some span, and then after, like, if it's not paid in the first 5 days, the SAT's price is set.
Okay.
If it goes basically against the person who's owed. And then and we were talking about, like, let's just use UTX Oracle, because it would basically be an independent way to set the price, and nobody has to decide, like, are we deciding on Coinbase or anything like that? And it's also an average over those days, which is exactly what you want. You don't want the 1 minute price to actually use that. So
right.
I am trying to use it, yes, and I'm bugging the people that we work with to do so.
All right. Let me just get through what was supposed to be the second half of my presentation. Luckily, I started early. All right, so let me just give you a quick explanation of how the algorithm works. I'm trying to kind of distinguish between two different products that UTX Oracle is. One is the UTX Oracle that you run on block data, and then the other one is the UTX Oracle that you run on new mempool data. So UTX Oracle block needs no starting price. A lot of people are confused with that. They think I need to set a seed price and have it go from there. It finds its own price. It needs around 100 blocks in order to have statistics to find the right price. It screens for P2P transactions. I talked about that a little earlier. It screens out basically everything but what it thinks is a P2P transaction. It uses the bell curve and the round USD amounts to find it. This is kind of where the magic happens. So I'll just spend just 30 seconds here explaining to you how this part of the algorithm works, because this is kind of the key part. I made this slide almost a year ago, October 2024. I guess a little bit more than a year ago. On the x-axis here is transaction amount. And so this is 0.001. Always look for the 0.001 when you're looking for this kind of stuff, because that'll center you. And this was just like the frequency of transactions on that day. as we always see. Transaction amounts are almost always a bell curve. We're talking about human behavior here. Human behavior is almost always going to fit a bell curve if you have enough samples. And the top of that bell curve is almost always going to be $100. And not only is the top of the bell curve $100, but you also get a huge spike right at $100. Unfortunately, the algorithm itself, like from the human eye, just by looking at this, it's pretty easy for me to tell you what the price is, but the hard part is to find an algorithm to do it. So what I've done over the years is I've seen so many of these daily bell curve histograms of output distributions that I just by hand crafted my own little stencil of like what it should look like. This is Steve's little custom made, I call it a stencil finder. This is where it turns into like kind of an art instead of a science. All right, so this is the bell curve that I'm looking for. And then these are like the round amounts of Bitcoin that I'm looking for. And I simply just slide this thing exactly how you would think I do. I just slide this thing over the distribution and just look for where it fits. This is like a really elementary way to do it. I'm sure there's a lot more sophisticated ways to do it. I don't want an AI to do it because I want to be able to stand up here and explain it. Otherwise, you might think there's some manipulation going on and how it finds the price. So I do think it's important that a human understands how this kind of algorithm works, just because it's related to price stuff. So yeah, I just slide it and just wherever it fits best. Fit best there. That means that is indeed the $100 line. How much Bitcoin was that? It was 0.00149. Just divide that number by $100. Now you divide $100 by that number. So last year, October 25th, 2024 is 67,085. That's essentially how it gets a price without having to know any price. It just assumes that the distribution of the day is going to look something like that, which is a pretty safe assumption. Not every day, but it's pretty good. It gives consensus results. So everyone who runs this algorithm has the exact same block node data, so they all get the exact same price, which I think is super cool. It renders an intraday plot. So on my website now, can't really see this that well. But yeah, okay, it looks a little bit better on my website, not a whole lot better. So this is yesterday. Yesterday was not the greatest day in Bitcoin. We dropped down from over $100,000 to less than $95,000. This is morning. This is night. But this is pure UTX Oracle data here, like no exchange data going in here. You can clearly see the price throughout the day dropping. And it was kind of cool that it dropped 5% and UTX Oracle had no problem handling that. If the price actually does jump like 20% in 5 minutes, like that's probably going to be a problem for the Oracle. But we'll see if that happens, how it handles it. Yeah, go ahead and get the open source code at utxo.pro. Run it from your node today. One thing I'm not worried about is the accuracy. The price is online. If your algorithm, the price is on chain. There's no question about that. If your algorithm finds it, it's going to be perfect. If it doesn't find it, then it might be off. But that doesn't mean because the price is not on chain. The price is always on chain. And so it's pretty, I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is going to become the reference price eventually. The other thing that I'm building now, this is kind of in beta stage, is UTX Oracle mempool. That's where the actual price on the animation was coming from, was the UTX Oracle mempool. It's super high frequency. It updates like every minute or so. It needs about 5 minutes of samples from the mempool. Screens for P2P transactions, just like the other one. I'm looking at about a 3% range around where the current price is. So if it jumps 3% in 5 minutes right now, that's going to break the UTX Oracle mempool. Gives pre-consensus results, meaning one of the things that I don't really know what to do with this project is because it's obvious that this should be open source because everyone gets the exact same thing. Everyone has a totally different mempool. So even if you're running the exact same UTX Oracle algorithm on your mempool, you're going to get a completely different price. And then you're going to be like, why are we even doing this project if we're getting different prices? So it's like I'm not quite sure what to do with the mempool stuff. It does update every minute. I ran this November 4th earlier this month. I guess that was about 10 days ago. And this is a 3-hour window right here, updating every minute. And not only is it like nicely perfect with the exchanges, there you can see the little bit of the delay right here. And because I'm doing not only a 5-minute delay, but a 5-minute averaging window, so I'm averaging over 5 minutes, that's going to tend to round out the spikes. So this was, it's a little bit delayed, but it's a perfect average, and it rounds through like any kind of flash crashes or any kind of exchange like craziness that you have. So that's kind of a nice property too. Code's still in beta. The non-consensus nature of this makes me think that this might lend itself to a business model idea. That's what I was talking about, having maybe a paid API server. I mean, you guys aren't going to get the same price with this, so I might as well just like provide it for me as a centralized source. And last slide, frequently asked questions. Wow, you guys didn't really ask the frequently asked questions. You asked new ones. Awesome. Non-USD currencies. So I gave this talk in Europe, and it didn't go too well. Because everyone the whole time was just like, where's the euro? Where's the euro? If the euro is there, it's not obvious, because you guys saw how perfectly those lines were correlated with each other. If one of those lines was the euro or a different currency, it wouldn't be so perfectly correlated over so many years. So if the euro's there, it's kind of hidden in a way, and I haven't been able to find it yet. I'm not looking for it.
Tell them you transact more.
yeah, make more transactions. Will fade as USD fade. Yes, thank God. I'll be the first one to celebrate when this project ends. But there's an interesting way in which it won't. If you think about the thing I talked about at the beginning, just the average Bitcoin amount, the average of Bitcoin amount is going to go down as long as the purchasing power is going to go up, no matter what currencies exist. So yes, the round USDs will fade, exact price will fade, but the purchasing power estimate just from the size of the transaction amounts is probably there's going to be a version of this that's still going to be around. What if no round USDs? Yeah, good luck stopping that. Not everyone's as smart as Nifty, making all the other conferences I went to, I showed them a picture of their ticket price as an example. I was going to do that today, and Nifty got me. And can it be manipulated? Yeah, of course it can be manipulated. The difference is that we kind of know the cost of manipulation. We know the cost it takes to buy up all the block space of the day. Whereas an exchange price, how much does it cost to bribe the API server? It's kind of a more disguised thing. So yes, it can be manipulated, but it's a transparent cost to that. So I'm going to put it back on the live stream. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh, back there.
Quick question. Because you're aggregating all of the exchange data so elegantly, have you tried to see if you can front run price action with specific exchanges at all?
When I got out of college, I spent 2 years trying to write AI algorithms to predict the stock market, and I failed so hard. It's kind of scarred me. I'm tempted to try to see if there is some predictive capability to the information here, and I'm sure I could lie and get some money from somebody and say that it does. Honestly, I don't know if it does. It's more of just a lagging indicator, but like I said before, it might have some samples some trades that were never on any exchange. So maybe in that sense.
Yeah. Probably compared to any big exchange, it's going to be slow. But I'm thinking maybe you could find some exchange that is using their order book that you're faster than, something like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, that's good.
Thanks.
All right.
Hey, just real quick. So it will fade as the USD fades, but we should still see a Pareto distribution of transaction amounts.
Yes.
Which could actually give us a chart to follow just in the Bitcoin amount that actually
Exactly.
gives us the
Purchasing
value price
power. Exactly.
of general purchasing power. So it would
Exactly.
actually track the deflation of all of the things that people are purchasing.
Perfectly.
Because
Yes.
it's just a Pareto distribution of the value that people are getting back from their Bitcoin.
Exactly. Like, so if you just take USD out of your head for a second, think about the grocery store checkouts of how we measure the value of the dollar. Now expand that to the checkouts, not just at the grocery store, but everywhere. Gas station, airplane tickets, conferences, everything. Imagine you had the distribution of all checkouts. You know how easy it'd be to determine the value of the money just looking at those statistics? So yeah, even exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I just think that's just another phenomenal property of Bitcoin. This isn't a property of what I built. Like, Bitcoin statistics just shows you its own purchasing power. It's just freaking amazing.
I was curious, when I buy things with fiat, with USD, it's absolutely never a round amount of USD. Probably thanks to taxes and fees and things that go along with things. So as more of that happens on Bitcoin, I realize it might not be on chain, but as more of those transactions happen on Bitcoin, do we start to see less round amounts?
Yeah, probably, maybe, hopefully. I've been surprised at how many there are. I mean, ATM, gift cards. But yeah, you're right. When you're checking out like a point of sale system, that's never a round amount. So avoid all those.
Just don't pay the taxes. It'll be around.
Yeah, just don't pay your taxes.
Oh, shit. No, pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes. All right. I think I should. All right, one more? Okay.
Up a real interesting channel for just new kinds of value is non-exchange but OTC trading.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's related to your previous question too. Like if you're looking as you go down here, the chances, the larger the transaction is, the chances that it's an OTC trade like increase more and more. So maybe if I did a price based on the smaller transactions and a price based on the larger transactions might have like more useful information because they're OTC. So you can see people that are doing a little more negotiating about the price. Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't really thought that through. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
What do you think about off-chain transactions? Like Lightning is not going to show up on this. eCash, Liquid. Any thoughts there?
I'm actually run the LN Big server just for this project so I could see everybody's transactions. No, you still can't see the amounts even if you run a Lightning server, right? You can see the amounts?
Yeah, you can see what's routed through you. Like the amount routed through your, yeah. So you can see like average, but it's sometimes like the like bills get split up, if that makes sense. If someone's trying to send you like a certain amount, they might split it in like 10 different little pieces that all end up. So it's more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, my vision of Bitcoin was that all the small transactions were going to go to layer 2 and Lightning was going to save the world, and it has in a way. But just the interesting thing that's happened is that like the larger transactions haven't really moved on chain. I mean, fees are cheaper than they are now. When are the small transactions going to move off Bitcoin?
I mean, I think that like, I actually think that a lot of transactions are happening on Lightning, and that I think there's just more people transacting with Bitcoin, and it is more spread out. And so I don't know, maybe I'm a Lightning maxi, maybe small potential there, but what do you call it? The fact that I think more people are transacting than Bitcoin than before. It's just that the fees on main chain are down because there is so much on second layers.
Yeah, I agree with you, which is cool, and which is great. Yeah. Who's next, by the way?
Assuming your LN Big was a joke, you could build a product like this for a scaled Lightning node operator, right? To gather the data on the size of transactions they're routing and then come up with something probably similarly accurate. It's not going to be like the same for every node runner, but like someone, like to your point about business cases, if you can figure out who LN Big is and give them a call, they could probably pretty easily run this on their data, and I would think they have enough scale that it would be
accurate. Or Square, now that, especially now with
Yeah.
the POS terminals. I've got a POS terminal at my bar, by the way, Nifty. I'm accepting Lightning and Chain. Crafty, come to my bar in Raleigh if you want to check it out. Yeah, you could do it on Lightning. I thought the amounts were hidden. I thought Super Testnet was proving how everything was so private, but the amounts are still visible. Okay. Right. Okay.
So like you wouldn't know where they're coming from or who they're going to.
Gotcha.
But you as LN Big would know the amounts, which is all you're really knowing here, right? Is just the amounts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the destinations, but they're pseudonymous, so you could dispense that piece of it entirely. You still have the amounts, which gives you the signal.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's build it on Lightning. All right. I think that's my time, right? All right. Anybody else? Nope. Good. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.